Hey there everyone, and welcome to this week's Market Update. Last week, the El Paso County Commissioner approved to reopen restaurants and bars in El Paso County early. Now, this doesn't mean that it's going to immediately go into effect, because this decision does still have to get approved by the governor's office and by the state health department. Now, whether restaurants and bars in El Paso County open up early or they open up at the same time as the state timeline for the rest of the state, it's going to come with new safety guidelines for the health and safety of the public. Some of the guidelines are going to include limiting the number of customers that can be in a restaurant at one time, taking record of table assignments, and getting the contact information, the name and phone number of one adult from every patroning party. The Board of County Commissioners released a list as well as other changes that are going to go into effect. I'm going to read the list off because it's a bit extensive, so I'm going to need to read it because there's no way I'm going to remember this. So they're going to be reducing the number of customers allowed, and it's going to be the number that's the least of these. It's going to be 50 customers or less, 30% of fire occupancy Monday through Thursday, and 50% Friday through Sunday. Seating will need to be 6 feet apart, and that's going to include indoor seating as well as outdoor seating, and they're not going to be allowing any new seating areas that haven't previously been approved by the licensing process. Group dining is going to be limited to 10 people or less from the same family or from the same social group. Restaurants should be encouraging people to make reservations online or by phone call, and walk-ins will be accepted as long as the restaurant is keeping track, they're keeping records of table assignments, and they're getting contact information from one adult from every patroning group. Congregating in waiting areas is going to be prohibited, so waiting areas are just going to be areas. And restaurants and bars are going to have to hold on to their records of table assignments and patrons' contact information, their name and phone number, for at least 21 days. After that, the records need to be destroyed. And the health department can request to see any of this information if they request it within a 21-day period that they're supposed to be keeping records. There won't be any bar seating unless patrons and groups can stay 6 feet apart and also stay 6 feet away from staff at the same time. Preset tables are no longer going to be allowed. Any customers serving themselves, so buffets are not going to be allowed. And if more than 2 people get COVID within a 2-week period, the restaurant will have to shut down and work with the state department, the state health department, to reopen. Again, this is by no means an exhaustive list, and is where we stand kind of right now. This is something that, as the situation progresses, we're seeing will continue to change, continue to develop, and I'll do my part to keep up on what's been going on. Last week, the governor's office also approved the reopening of campsites and parks for Colorado. State parks have the green light to go ahead and start the reopening process, and some of which started preparing last week. Now, the state parks are also going to have the option to begin this reopen or to remain closed at the discretion of the county that the state park is based in. The Colorado Department of Parks and Wildlife said that they would love to open up their gates and just let people come in, but they do need some time to prepare both the parks, the campsites, as well as how they're going to operate internally during this time. Now, these campers who had the reservations previously are going to have a first chance, they're going to have first dibs to make reservations in the coming weeks. So the CPW is going to be reaching out by phone, trying to contact everybody so that they do have that chance. They believe that they'll be done with this by May 18th. Once the previous campers who had reservations have been reached out to, the public and the rest of everybody can go to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Department website to make reservations. For the foreseeable future, camping is going to be by reservation only within the state parks in Colorado. One of the things the CPW wants to do as well is make sure to reach out to the people who had reservations before, reservations that were canceled because of the stay-at-home orders caused the parks to close. In addition, the state parks are going to have some additional health and safety guidelines that they're going to encourage campers to abide by. Some of which is they're not going to allow camping groups of more than 10 people. And they're going to ask people within these groups not to socialize with any other campers, anybody outside of their personal campsite. And they're also going to ask that while you're away from your campsite, that you do wear a mask. The state parks are also going to be encouraging people to get all the supplies they need within their neighborhood as close to home as possible. Part of the camping experience in the past has been that you get supplies on the way, that you go to restaurants, you get fuel, all of that while you're on the way to the campsite. But again, the state parks are going to be encouraging people to minimize contact with people outside of their immediate area to get the supplies, the food, and everything that they need, and to refuel as close to home as possible. And one more note, if a county has more strict public safety and health guidelines, that campers respect those while they're in that county, in that park. It was also announced last week that Colorado Springs is going to be the provisional home for the U.S. Space Command for at least the next 6 years. The state has been pushing to make this the permanent home of the U.S. Space Command. This is because Colorado has a strong military presence, as well as a number of airspace and government services that call this place home. This includes aerospace companies, like large companies that have certain divisions here in Colorado and in Colorado Springs, as well as several aerospace companies that are small to medium size that were founded here in Colorado Springs. Colorado was the first home for the U.S. Space Command when it was established in 1985, when it was started at the Peterson Air Force Base. This was an announcement that we're all happy to hear, as it means additional resources for our military that we have here in our city and our state, as well as the jobs and the financial support it'll provide for the community. So over the last few weeks, we've seen a lot of crazy stuff happening in the market here in Colorado Springs. Prices have been stable, houses are selling fast, and as of right now, one of the major challenges we're having is that we're low on inventory. My advice to sellers would be, make sure to get your house prepared and prepare for it to sell pretty quickly. And if you're looking to buy a house in Colorado Springs, you may need to be patient to make sure that you find the house that's right for you, and when that comes across, you need to be able to write a strong offer and be ready to do that fairly quickly. But even with all the craziness going on, we're going to go over today 3 zip codes where the average price is still going to be below $300,000. Again, the market's crazy, but there's still deals out there. There's still great homes to be found. In 80917, in the last 30 days, a total of 32 homes have sold. On average, the home was on the market for about 11 days, and the average price was $286,000. In zip code 80916, in the last 30 days, a total of 47 homes have sold. They took an average of about 4 days to sell, so these are selling really fast. And the average price was $267,000. In zip code 80909, in the last 30 days, a total of 54 homes have sold. It took an average of about 7 days to sell each home, and the average price was $298,000. So again, there's a lot going on. Things are still changing, things are still developing. I'm going to keep an eye on the numbers, keep an eye on the data to see how it develops and how it changes. But to get all of this information in a really easy to look at and compare picture, head over to Instagram and check out Springs Home Directory. And that concludes this week's market update, and thank you for watching.